Welcome to the Agile Software Engineering Deep Dive, the podcast where we unpack the ideas shaping modern software engineering. My name is Alessandro Guida, and I've spent most of my career building and leading software engineering teams across several industries. And today I want to talk about something many organizations struggle with as systems grow. How do we scale Agile without losing what made it work in the first place? Because small teams can move fast with very little coordination. But as complexity increases, something starts to change. Dependencies grow, alignment becomes harder, and the system begins to drift. Some organizations respond by introducing more structure, often through frameworks like SAFe. And while that brings alignment, it can also introduce significant overhead. So the question becomes, is there a way to achieve alignment without losing autonomy? In this episode, I explore that middle ground. A pragmatic, engineering-driven approach that I refer to as SAFe Light. Not as a framework, but as a way of thinking about coordination. Because in the end, scaling Agile is not about adding more process. It is about making dependencies visible, strengthening architecture, and aligning through intent rather than control. Let's dive in.
If you are listening to this right now, there is like a very good chance you are dealing with a massive headache at work.
Oh, absolutely. The classic scaling headache.
Right. You are trying to build software, maybe you were scaling up your teams, and you are caught in this inescapable trap. On one side, you have your fast, lightweight, agile setup. Everybody loves the freedom, but as you grow, things are just starting to break.
Yeah, the wheels start falling off.
Exactly. And then on the other side, you're looking at surrendering to a heavy, highly structured framework like SAFe, the Scaled Agile framework.
Right.
And you're sitting there thinking, do I really have to choose between total chaos and just drowning in bureaucracy?
It is the ultimate software engineering dilemma. You want to scale your operations, right, to handle massive projects.
Yeah.
But you definitely don't want to lose the soul and the speed of what made your teams great in the first place.
Well, today we are exploring a framework that promises a way out of that trap. It's called SAFe Light.
SAFe Light, yeah.
And it is detailed in a fantastic Agile software engineering newsletter we are sourcing for this deep dive. Now, the original author actually mapped this entire system out in a massive, detailed flowchart.
It is incredibly detailed.
It is. But we're going to spare you the audio tour of a complex diagram. Trying to describe a flowchart over audio is just, it's boring.
Oh, yeah. Nobody wants that.
You should absolutely check the printed article to see that visual flow for yourself. Our job today is to get straight into the engine room.
Exactly.
We want to summarize the fundamental differences between Agile, full SAFe, and this new SAFe Light approach, and then break down the actual mechanics. So, okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
Before we get to the solution, we have to understand the two extremes that are just tearing organizations apart right now.
Right, because before you can fix the system, you really have to understand the underlying forces at play. Every delivery model is ultimately trying to balance two opposing forces.
Autonomy and alignment.
Exactly. Autonomy and alignment.
Well, let's look at Agile first. The newsletter points out that Agile is heavily optimized for autonomy. It thrives when you have these small, self-organizing teams.
Short feedback loops, direct customer interaction.
Right. There is almost no upfront coordination. They just build, I like to think of pure Agile like a frontier town.
A frontier town.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, like anyone can come in and build whatever house they want, wherever they want.
And that frontier town model works beautifully under specific conditions. It works when your dependencies are extremely limited.
Right.
When teams can operate largely independently and they're evolving the system in small, decoupled increments, it is incredibly fast. But as the town grows into a city, the math completely changes.
Yeah, you end up with 50 houses clumped together, and suddenly you realize, nobody left room to build a road for the fire truck.
Exactly. The dependencies just multiply exponentially.
Yeah.
Your architectural consistency starts to drift.
Oh, yeah.
And you end up in a situation where individual teams are optimizing locally.
Meaning they're just doing what's best for their specific piece of the puzzle.
Right. But in doing so, they are actively hurting the global system. Agile doesn't just suddenly break overnight, but it stretches way beyond its natural limits.
Which triggers the massive counterreaction, which is SAFe.
Right.
So if Agile optimizes for autonomy, SAFe optimizes for alignment. SAFe steps in and says, hey, we are putting structure in place.
Heavy structure.
Yeah, you get program-level planning, defined roles, strict cadences across all teams. To stick with the town analogy, SAFE is strict urban planning.
Very strict.
Like the mayor has to approve every single tree you want to plant in your front yard.
And to be fair, it brings predictability. In a massive organization with, thousands of developers, you absolutely need explicit alignment.
You have to have everyone pulling in the same direction.
Right. But the cost of that predictability is enormous.
Well, yeah. If you need a permit to plant a tree, eventually people just stop planting trees.
Exactly. They stop innovating.
I mean, doesn't SAFE solve the scaling problem by basically killing the flexibility that made the teams great in the first place?
It does. SAFE solves the coordination problem, but it introduces so much process that you lose all that nimbleness. But what's fascinating here is that SAFE is actually fantastic for massive complexity.
For highly interconnected organizations.
Right. And Agile is fantastic for low dependencies.
Yeah.
But most companies out there, they live in the messy middle.
The messy middle.
They have enough complexity that they desperately need coordination, but enough uncertainty that they still need to be flexible.
Right. So pure Agile is too loose, full SAFE is too heavy. So how does an organization navigate that middle without just creating a watered-down, ineffective version of both?
Well, by understanding that SafeLight isn't just another rigid framework you install on top of your teams.
Okay.
The core objective of SafeLight is beautifully simple. You introduce structure only where it adds value.
Only where it adds value.
Right. And more importantly, you solve your coordination problems with engineering discipline before you ever add bureaucratic process.
Oh, wait, I am stuck on that phrase. Solving coordination with engineering instead of meetings.
Yeah, the principles of SafeLight reflect this total shift in thinking. You preserve team autonomy wherever you possibly can.
Okay.
You make dependencies visible rather than centrally controlling them. And you introduce alignment mechanisms strictly by exception.
Meaning only when they clearly add value to the specific problem at hand.
Exactly.
So what does this all mean? How does a team actually do this without it devolving right back into the frontier town chaos?
Well, let's move from the philosophy directly into how work actually gets planned. The first core mechanism is lightweight planning.
Because in a heavy framework, planning is all about detailing execution, right? You break every feature down into tiny tasks months in advance.
Right, which is exhausting. But in SafeLight, planning shifts entirely. You align on goals and intent, not detailed task breakdowns.
The source mentions using storyboards for this. How does a storyboard prevent people from getting bogged down in the details?
Well, instead of a sterile list of technical requirements, a storyboard focuses on the user journey, the context of the problem.
So, like, if you are building a new e-commerce checkout...
Right, the storyboard visually maps out the customer's path from cart to information. It makes the intended outcome visible across all the teams.
Ah, okay. So it creates a shared understanding.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And teams can take that broad intent and translate it into their own specific work, which we call epics.
And for anyone outside the daily grind of software development, an epic is basically just a large chunk of work that accomplishes one big goal.
Right.
Like revamp the checkout system is an epic. And the beauty of this is what happens down at the team level once they have those epics. The article explicitly states, no new process is introduced at the team level.
Not at all. The teams just keep using Scrum or Kanban.
Let's define those quickly. Scrum and Kanban are just standard Agile methods for a single team to organize their own daily work.
Right, usually in 2-week cycles called sprints.
Yeah, and SafeLight says just keep doing that. You lower the learning curve while maintaining the broader direction.
Because planning provides the direction, but the execution remains entirely decentralized within those teams.
But, and this is a big but, setting up that much localized freedom creates a new vulnerability.
Oh, for sure.
If everyone is just executing in their own little bubbles, how do you handle the moments when their work inevitably collides?
Because it will collide.
Always.
Yeah.
In a traditional scaling approach, you usually have this centralized dependency management system.
Right.
Like a project manager or a giant program board tracking every single thing Team A needs from Team B.
And over time, that central authority becomes a massive bottleneck.
Because every request has to go through them.
Right. It creates a parallel coordination structure that adds overhead and slows actual development down to a crawl.
Well, here's where it gets really interesting. SafeLight introduces an alternative to that bottleneck. It's a decentralized handshake.
I love the handshake model.
Yeah, instead of a middleman, Dependencies are made visible and owned locally by the teams themselves.
It functions as a direct contract. You have a provider team, the team actually building the code,
Okay.
and a consumer team, the team that needs that code to make their own feature work.
Okay, let me push back on this because I'm stuck on this idea of decentralized dependencies.
Sure.
If the mobile app team needs the database team to build a new data endpoint, right? And there is no project manager forcing the database team to do it, what stops the database team from just ignoring them and working on their own priorities?
Well, that is where the formal handshake comes in.
Yeah.
The dependency is negotiated directly between those two teams during the planning phase.
Okay.
And the strict rule of SafeLight is this. The provider team delivers the work, but it is not considered done until the consumer team actually validates it.
Oh, wow. So the database team cannot claim their work is complete until the mobile team successfully connects to it.
Exactly.
And to keep track of this without a massive spreadsheet, they use a brilliantly minimal state model.
It's so simple.
They just track it on a sprint-based timeline using 3 colors. Red means the work is not completed.
Yep.
Yellow means it has been delivered by the provider, but it is awaiting verification from the consumer. And green means it is verified and completed.
And that tracking is mapped against sprints, not highly precise daily schedules.
Why sprints?
Because hyper-precision in software development is usually a false sense of accuracy anyway. Sprint-level visibility gives you enough transparency to know if things are generally on track.
Without creating endless reporting overhead.
Exactly.
And these dependencies aren't locked in stone at the start of the project, right? As teams learn more, new dependencies dynamically evolve.
Right, they just define the new dependency together, shake on it, and add it to the map.
But wait, if setting up these local handshakes is the norm, how do you prevent the underlying code from tangling up? Like, if everybody is just making local deals, couldn't the whole architecture just turn into a giant bowl of spaghetti?
That is exactly where the secret weapon of SafeLight comes in.
Okay.
Strong architectural discipline. In SafeLight, architecture actually replaces process.
Wait, really? Replace process with architecture? That is a very bold claim.
It is, but you achieve it by actively reducing and controlling dependencies through system design.
How so?
You factor your large systems into cohesive, independently evolvable services, you define clear system boundaries, you establish explicit ownership,
Okay.
and most importantly, you define clean APIs as the absolute only integration points between teams.
And just for anyone outside the code, an API is basically a digital menu. It tells Team A exactly what data they can order from Team B without needing to know anything about how Team B's kitchen operates.
Exactly. So there is no hidden coupling, no teams secretly sharing a database or relying on some implicit code contract that breaks the moment someone changes a variable.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, when you have clean APIs and explicit boundaries, teams don't need to sit in endless coordination meetings.
They don't. The API is the contract. They integrate via design.
Wow.
Going back to your town analogy, SafeLight is strong zoning laws.
Yeah.
You can build whatever house you want on your lot. That's your autonomy.
Right.
But your plumbing has to connect to the main city line using a standardized pipe size. That standard pipe is your clean API.
Okay, but wait. If the architecture is that strict, how does the architect not just become a new centralized dictator, like micromanaging every line of code from an ivory tower?
Well, the role of the architect in SafeLight is entirely different from a command and control dictator.
Okay.
The architect operates across teams to maintain coherence. They act as a guardrail, not a task manager.
So they aren't handing out massive binders of architecture up front?
No, architecture in this model is actively maintained. The teams still make their own local decisions on how to write their specific code.
Right. They retain that autonomy.
Exactly. The architect is just there to ensure those local decisions remain sound in the broader context of the system, just making sure the overall pattern doesn't drift into unnecessary complexity.
So the architecture does the heavy lifting of coordination so the people don't have to?
Precisely.
Which naturally leads us to the people who are actually steering the ship. SafeLight keeps roles very simple, but explicitly defines their spheres of influence so they don't step on each other's toes.
Right. We already mentioned the architect who operates across the entire release.
Yeah.
But at the team level, you have the Scrum Masters.
And they are focused purely on team flow, right? Removing daily impediments.
Exactly. Supporting autonomy so that developers can actually build.
And then operating at the broader delivery level, you have the project managers.
Right. They own the overall release coordination. They ensure everything aligns with the delivery roadmap, and they really only step in to manage cross-team dependencies when those dependencies get stuck.
When they require active management.
Exactly.
But the newsletter highlights two other unsung heroes that are absolutely critical for this engineering over process model to actually work.
Oh, yes.
The build manager, sometimes called the DevOps manager, and the test manager.
These roles are completely orthogonal to the delivery structure. I mean, they don't manage the work itself.
So what do they do?
Their entire job is continuous integration governance. The DevOps manager ensures the code always builds. Nothing gets checked in unless it builds successfully.
Right.
And the test manager ensures the system is always verifiable. No change is accepted unless it passes the relevant integration tests.
But how do they enforce this without becoming bottlenecks themselves? I mean, they can't possibly be reading every single line of code from 50 different teams.
Oh, they don't read the code manually at all. They enforce this by building automated pipelines.
Okay, pipelines.
Think of it like a factory assembly line equipped with laser scanners.
I like that.
The DevOps and test managers set up the automated tripwires. Whenever a developer finishes a piece of code, it goes down the line. If it's broken, or if it breaks someone else's code, the laser trips and rejects the code automatically.
So the managers aren't physically inspecting every item, they're building the automated inspectors.
Exactly. But this raises an important question.
What's that?
What happens if you don't have those automated tripwires? What if integration isn't continuous and you just leave it until the end of the project?
You get late-stage quality disasters.
Massive ones. Team A validates their code locally, and it works perfectly. Team B validates locally, and it works perfectly.
And then 2 weeks before launch, they try to put them together, and the entire system explodes.
Exactly. Without these continuous integration roles, integration becomes a late-stage activity. And massive architectural flaws surface way too late to fix smoothly.
Yeah, in Safelite, integration is not a phase you enter at the end of a project. It is a continuous condition of the system.
It has to be.
And to keep everyone aligned on what they are continuously integrating toward, Safelite relies heavily on the delivery roadmap.
Right. The delivery roadmap is how you align teams through intent. It is not a highly detailed, rigid schedule with specific dates for every little task.
Thank goodness.
It is a visible, evolving narrative of upcoming releases. Each delivery represents a release with a clear theme or goal. First, you define that roadmap narrative, like, what is the goal of this release?
And then from that narrative, you derive your epics using those storyboards we talked about earlier.
Exactly. And there is a very strict rule here. Epics are explicitly scoped to fit within a single delivery.
So you completely avoid work that dangerously spans across multiple deliveries.
Yes. If an epic is too big to fit into one release cycle, you absolutely must split it into smaller, valuable chunks.
Because cross-release epics destroy visibility and create massive integration risks.
They do. So we've planned our intent with the roadmap. We've built our features using Agile teams, handled dependencies with direct handshakes. We've stayed aligned through clean architecture and continuous integration pipelines.
So now how does a Safelite organization actually get the product out the door and into the hands of the customer?
They cross the finish line through a process called clearing.
Clearing.
And it is vital to understand that clearing is a validation step. It is not a development phase.
So you aren't writing new code in the clearing stage?
No. You are formally confirming that a delivery is actually ready to be released to the public. The newsletter makes a point that should really be etched into the wall of every software company.
What's that?
Release in Safelite is not assumed. It is earned. You don't just hit a date on a calendar and push whatever you have to production.
Right. Give me a real-world example of what that looks like in practice.
Okay, imagine your teams just spent 3 months building a massive new customer data portal. The code builds perfectly. The local tests all pass. The teams are cheering. But during the clearing phase, the gatekeepers review the predefined release criteria.
And these are strict rules agreed upon upfront by the project manager, test manager, architect, and compliance officers, right?
Exactly. So during clearing, they realize that while the code works perfectly, a specific data encryption requirement for European users was somehow bypassed.
Oh, wow. If that goes live, you're looking at millions of dollars in GDPR compliance fines.
Exactly. So the clearing gate stops the release. The problem is flagged, fixed, and only then is the release earned.
Wow.
It defines what ready truly looks like across compliance, architecture, and security, not just whether the code runs.
It is the ultimate sanity check. But again, to be clear, clearing does not replace continuous integration. It complements it.
Right. Continuous integration ensures the ongoing health of the system day to day. Clearing is the deliberate, formal gate that ensures release readiness based on transparent criteria.
It adds that final layer of discipline without introducing unnecessary daily overhead to the developers.
Exactly.
Well, we have covered a lot of ground today. If you are listening to this and evaluating your own organization, the biggest takeaway here is that choosing your methodology is not about picking the trendiest framework off the shelf.
Not at all.
It's about looking deeply at your specific system. You need to ask yourself, where do you actually lose time? Where does misalignment cost you money and morale? If you have small, decoupled teams with low complexity, Agile is your best friend. Let them build the frontier town.
Right. And if you are a massively interconnected organization with thousands of developers and intense dependency complexity, you might truly need the heavy permit approval structure of safe flights.
But if you are, like most companies, operating with moderate complexity, needing both autonomy and alignment, and possessing a strong engineering culture,
Then safe flight is that pragmatic middle ground. It's about smart zoning laws. It's about introducing structure only where it adds value.
Now, as a reminder, do not forget to check out the printed article in the newsletter we sourced today. You really want to see the visual flowchart of the safe flight model.
It is highly recommended.
It brings all these mechanisms, the handshakes, the storyboards, the clearing process together visually in a way that will make it click instantly.
And I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over.
Let's hear it.
Take a look at your own organization's calendar this week. Really look at it. Are your teams spending hours and hours navigating endless coordination meetings and dependency check-ins?
Oh, the dreaded recurring sync meeting that somehow has 40 people on the invite.
Exactly. Because if they are, you have to ask yourself, is your real problem a lack of management process? Or is it a lack of clear architectural boundaries that forces your people to constantly talk when the code should be doing the heavy lifting?
Wow. If the APIs are clean, the teams don't need to be in a meeting. They can just be at their desks building incredible software, confident that their work will plug right into the bigger picture.
That's the dream.
It is. Thank you for diving deep with us today. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.
Thank you for listening to the Agile Engineering Deep Dive podcast. If you found this episode valuable, feel free to share it with someone who might benefit, a colleague, your team, or your network. You can access all episodes by subscribing to the podcast and find their written counterparts in the Agile Software Engineering newsletter on LinkedIn. And if you have thoughts, ideas, or stories from your own engineering journey, I'd love to hear from you. Your input helps shape what we explore next. Thanks again for tuning in, and see you in the next episode.